My mum was the first Black department manager for John Lewis Partnership, and it took her 16 years to get the title, but they let her do the job. My dad, he was a fashion designer. He used to be the designer for a store called Carnaby Cavern in Carnaby Street, made to measure for musicians, rich and famous. I was a Black woman, bisexual, mental health survivor, in an interracial relationship. And then I found out something, son, and the landscape for the world that I was bringing a child into really changed. I've now got over 10,000 followers, and I'm a LinkedIn top voice for LGBTQ in the UK. And this year I was recognised as one of the top 50 inspirational Black women in marketing. Know that the award is just a recognition and a nod for what you're already doing. It's not the defining moment of the why.
Welcome to Coffee and Oysters, the podcast for and by London business leaders, where we get you together with business tips that actually work. My name is Frances Adair Matthews. I'm a certified Notion consultant and your host and founder of the Notion Bar, where I get my clients together by building them personalized productivity systems in Notion. For all my system-loving girlies out there is no need to suffer with Notion alone. Once a month, I host the Big Notion Energy Academy, where we go through new releases and your burning questions. Details in the show notes. This week has been an interesting week for me. Any business owner, you always have that overshadowing feeling of, I should probably fix my website. The thing is, I've had that feeling for about 5 years now, and somehow I have just gotten around to doing it. And it's actually very refreshing to have somewhere to send people that actually works. If there's anyone out there, your website isn't the be all and end all, and you'll get to it eventually. Things that are also working well are my inquiry form, which now lives in a really good place on my website. And it's really cool because I built it in Tally, set it up so that once you go through this inquiry form, you can book a discovery call with me. With that, I know how much budget they have, what they actually want to do. If you're not going to put in the effort to fill in the form and give me the information that I need to know, you're likely not a good fit as a client because you're not going to get back to me on time. So it's weeding out bad clients as well. If I sound a bit crazy, it's because I am struggling with a sore throat at the moment. So I'm holding myself together with strepsils and salt water at the moment. So that is a really mad, pretty much everyone I know has been hit by this at the moment, which is crazy. So I actually haven't gone out very much because I'm sick, but I took my clothes to the tailor, which was really exciting. There were tons of clothes where it's like the button was half falling off or the rip, and I just wasn't able to wear them. I could do it myself, or I could go to the tailor down the road and get them to fix it for me. And so I did that, got everything back, and I'm really excited to rediscover new pieces in my wardrobe.
Hey London Business Babe. This community is built for us and by us to ungatekeep your next move and life in the city. If you never want to miss out, subscribe to the Substack where episodes will land straight in your inbox. Plus, every other Monday, you'll get a chance to feature on the show by shouting yourself out in the Manifest Monday email. You never know who's listening. Details in the show notes. Now, grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and let's get into today's interview.
Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to have Chloë Davies on the show. Chloë is an AdColor 2024 Rockstar of the Year nominee and Advertising Week Europe 2024 The Future is Female winner. Chloë Davies is an award-winning founder, creative, dynamic social impact consultant, chef, and entrepreneur who has dedicated much of her 20-plus year career campaigning for inclusion and equality in spaces. Thank you so much for coming on today. You don't do much at all.
I'm too. And I actually won Rockstar of the Year.
Incredibly good. How's your week going?
I'm tired. 2 boys under 10 now. Nerves, spicy, and a lot of energy.
All power to you.
Thanks.
What is the activity that you give them sometimes? You're like, go off, do this now. Or is there something that you go to?
There is no go off, you do this. This was yesterday outside in the garden. My son was throwing grass that we'd cut into the air and making it rain on his hair.
He doesn't have hay fever?
No, but he got a good scrubbing.
At least it's warm enough to go out.
The smallest things will keep my boys entertained. Sensory and tactile. They'll stay there for hours.
As we mentioned in your bio, you do a lot things. I was having a bit of a stalk on your LinkedIn, and I am like fascinated
Mhm.
by your journey, to be honest. So I also love that you've achieved all of this without, maybe you haven't publicized it, but do you have a formal
No,
university degree?
no, I'm a university dropout.
Like you've done so much, and I was just like, it's incredible. Which is also a testament to say that university isn't always everything,
Mhm.
There are other pathways.
Definitely.
And so you started out actually like being you were mostly a store manager before you got into social impact consulting.
Yeah, so I started in retail, and actually, I just got to tell the story out loud last week. My mum was the first Black department manager for John Lewis Partnership. She worked at Peace Jones in Sloane Square. It took her 16 years to get the title, but they let her do the job for a whole host of different things that we see in our careers today as Black women. I started at 16 in 4 days when you were legally allowed to work. They basically said, my parents, that is, we've cut your pocket money. You start on Saturday. Don't embarrass me and don't chat my business. But there was one third rule, which was, I don't know you. And so when I became a training manager at 17, it was a difficult time for my mum and I because it had taken her so long to get ahead. So who was this 17-year-old that also happened to be her daughter, aspiring for greatness? But I could and believed I could because of my mom and my dad and the work that he did. I did retail for 16 years. I worked at John Lewis for 10, worked in Carnaby Street for Lee Jean. I was Westfield, White City, went to Polo Alpha Men at Selfridges. I'd never wanted to be my mum. My mum worked at Peace Jones for 35 years. I wanted to see what more I was good at. If I had finished my degree, I did music industry management and marketing. My first job was at Tower Records in Piccadilly Circus. I've managed recording artists. My dad he was a fashion designer. He used to be the designer for a store called Carnaby Cavern in Carnaby Street, made to measure for musicians, rich and famous, and the cool cats. I've got pictures of my dad in suits that he used to make for him and his friends. So I knew music and fashion my whole life. That's what I grew up with, and that's what I wanted to work in. I went to BCUC and did music industry management and marketing, but I should have gone and done it in the States because what we were learning here in the UK wasn't what I had been doing. So I tried my best, but the course I was learning was very academic, classical music, and Elvis was the roots of rhythm and blues. And I was like, by this point, I was a staff liaison manager, and my manager in kitchenware, her name was Sue Clifford. And she said, why don't you come and be full-time and go on to the full-time manager training program at 19, earning a lot of money in Sloane Square. I was like, always go back to university. That's how it started. What I would say is working in a place like Peter Jones in Chelsea and being that only John Lewis that had a royal warrant meant from the age of 16, I've grown up serving kings, queens, princes and princesses, celebs, and everyday society. At Peter Jones, we had two roles. You were there to be served or you were there to be of service. It didn't matter what colour you were, what age, creed, background. You just fit into one of those two roles. It was the best people watching experience that I ever had, the best customer service experience. I think gave me access to a part of society that maybe doesn't exist anymore, but I had a free reign, unobstructed view to it, and I was encouraged to navigate through it. And I think that stuck with me everywhere else that I've gone.
For everyone at some point having some kind of job in the
Everyone
street.
needs to work in retail. It will humble you quickly.
But it's what you just said there. You're exposed to so many different people from so many different walks of life, and you just have to learn to be a people person, which is not everyone's good at that, but it's very necessary if you want to get far in any kind of field in life.
But also, you're not any better than anyone else.
Yeah.
So I did that after about 6.5 years. My best friend, who actually was in my house yesterday, he was working at Pearson. They do all the examination papers. He said, will you make me some cake? I was coming to meet him for lunch. I've been cooking since I was 3 and I'm an overachiever. So I made him 4 versions of cake. I met him for lunch and he went back to the office. He worked around the corner, so I was sat in one of the parks waiting for him to finish work and we were going to go back to his place. And when he came out, he was like, "You've got 7 orders for cake." And I was like, "Oh yeah, call the other one." And he was like, "No, seriously, you've got 7 orders for cake." So I set up my own catering company. I used to do cakes for corporate and then at home dinner services, come in, make your dinner, load the dishwasher and leave. And then I found out I was pregnant and I got really severe polycystic ovaries. I was infertile for 8 years. And they basically said, if you ever want to have kids, you'll have to have IVF. So I changed my whole life. I'd always been the one that wanted to be the mum of the group and I just stopped doing all of that stuff. What I will say is that I lived a very good life. There was nothing that I didn't try or explore. Yeah, 33, I found out I was pregnant and I was a Black woman, bisexual, mental health survivor in an interracial relationship. And then I found out something a son and the landscape for the world that I was bringing a child into really changed. So I went to volunteering in the LGBTQ plus space for Pride in London. By the time I left, I was Deputy Director of Community Engagement. I left for some very horrible reasons and a lot of discrimination, institutional racism, structural racism, gaslighting. My saving grace had been that I was always the liaison for UK Black Pride 2018. Lady Phil said, "Come home." And so I've been part of UK Black Pride ever since. I started as her EA strategic officer. I'm now head of finance and governance. But I was in that space. I volunteered, worked in the LGBTQ plus space, went to my G work as the head of PR and partnerships, went to be the head of trade engagement, got them from 85 to 252 businesses, helped get 2 million investment. And then I just wanted to focus on my kids. I left without plan. A friend of mine, Rich Miles, who's at the Diversity Standards Collective, he said, "Oh, I'm working with this agency. They got this brand new job, first of its kind in the UK, head of social impact for Lucky Generals." I said, "No, thank you. I don't want it." He said, "You should go for it. I just want to focus on the kids. It's all good." He was like, "No, you should apply. I feel like it was made for you." I jokingly said to him, "Are you on commission? You're pushing this really hard." He wasn't, and I went for it anyway. I had a stage interview, got the job. It was the best job I've ever had. What I was able to do in that role, what the team we collectively built, Virgin Atlantic and Amazon being some of my proudest moments. But I think, as has been throughout my career, navigating as a dark-skinned Black woman in spaces and what comes with that and the questions that are asked, what responsibility really looks like and what true accountability is, that didn't align with what was being said and what was actually happening. And yeah, 2 years, some wonderful things, but wasn't a place that I was psychologically safe. And ITAV had come into my head March 2023, it all synced up and then hit the ground running from there.
I love that you highlighted that your job at Lucky Generals was so impactful. And I do like to celebrate good roles. What were some of the things that stood out to you in terms of having a healthy workplace and compared to potentially other experiences?
Honest, I don't think it was ever a healthy work experience. What I did have was great community with the team across all levels. London and New York, 112 members of staff. And when we really got to break bread and everybody worked for me, I worked for them, we worked with each other, and we made work that has changed the world. That's what I mean when I say it's the best job that I ever had. Oh my God, of course. But I don't think it's the high impact clients because a lot of them I'd met in other parts of my world. So I knew the CCO from Virgin Atlantic through LGBT community. We'd seen each other at Attitude Awards and had built a relationship there. And that really helped with Virgin Atlantic account. When we were working on Amazon, my ambassadorship as a mental health First Aid England meant that we could bring in mental health consultants. So that was really great. That, like, those roots in community really helped. But I think my years in retail and customer service, I would never have been able to come into Adland, as it were, because it's all emotional. Our industry is based on emotion. It's based on the emotions of creatives, account managers, strategists. Issues not skill. It's how people think and feel about their work, how they feel that they're respected and valued. Being able to navigate all of that, to hold people, celebrate people, mentor people, but also to guide people when they're going the wrong way. I think that was my greatest asset at doing what I did. And then having the balance between internal staff, external client? What is community going to expect? What do we actually have to do? And how do you do all of them at the same time?
Definitely a lot of transferable skills there.
Absolutely. That I say I'm the queen of transferable skills.
I love how you highlighted just then how your volunteering work has actually opened doors for you, which have
Absolutely.
helped you elevate your career. I think volunteering is having a bit of a hard time at the moment. People being very time poor, just in general, to be able to give up their time for free. But it does go to show that if you have the capacity, it's so worth it. You never know who you might meet.
I think it's why you're volunteering. A lot of people might volunteer thinking that it's like the limelight or by association. Volunteering is another job. It's hard work. You are committing your skills to something that you believe in. Recognition or remuneration is just the right thing to do. And I think part of why volunteering is also getting a bad rep is because people are coming in with an expectation that they'll receive something. And actually, that's not why you should do it. I don't volunteer for clout or clicks. I've got a skill set that I want to give to those communities. And if I'm elevated and championing those communities, that's great. But it was never about that. And I think that's part and parcel. Sometimes when you see someone volunteering outside, I think the internet has a lot to do with this, based on the persona of what people see and the actuality of what's happening.
You can't just volunteer for the sake of it. You've got to do it for the right reasons.
It's a commitment.
Yeah. Do you ever encounter people like that when you're volunteering?
All the time. No tea, all the shade. But I think this is everywhere. I've been volunteering for over a decade now. The more that places elevate themselves, the more that they're in the limelight, you attract people who see that and think that they can achieve their own dreams of fame or whatever else through it. And then you've got people who are continue to be there because, for me, I volunteer in all the spaces that I volunteer in because they all keep me safe. You know, there's a part and a time in life where I needed community and home, and all those spaces are in place for me in those ways. Often why people say you do so much, for me, it doesn't feel like that. They feel like places that I call home, that I can give in those spaces. That's not necessarily the same for everyone. And like I said, that's not me being messy on purpose, but that's just the reality. Some people volunteer in a space to put it on their socials and say that they volunteer in a space, but they don't show up and do the work. Other people, it sounds nice, but actually committing your time, like you talk, requires time. It's not an hour here or an hour there. It's sometimes a committed role. It's 20 hours a month. It's asking you to have meetings at weekends and after work. And when people realize that's actually what it entails, they don't want to do it. It's not it's the idea of what it looks like, and the reality is different.
It's unfortunately a vicious cycle where more and more people nowadays can't just rely on one source of income. They've got to rely on multiple sources of income, which all take multiple chunks of time just to survive. And so people who are probably the right people to volunteer, and in the past, when the cost of living would have had a few hours after work, helping it down at the local youth centre or something, but they physically can't at the moment. And all of that is leading to breakdowns in communities that make people feel safe, like yourself that you just said, which is just an unfortunate state of society.
It was changed. Okay, in my case, I guess the context and role was taken from the US. I think in the US, we're having a more advanced conversation around representation and inclusion, especially in the workplace, especially through an advertising marketing perspective. My role at Lucky's was Dream It, which was how we built a truly inclusive culture internally for London and New York. So I reported into the line manager alongside the London and the New York end, but my role strategically sat at that level. How we did the exact same thing across our entire client footprint. I was on every single account, whether it be like from start to finish on Virgin Atlantic or sense check before it got signed off by our creative founder and kind of wider work with the team. Sustainability was its own pillar. And then I came with a whole host of stuff, like I talked about, volunteering for UK Black Pride, London Queer Fashion Show. I'm an ambassador for Mental Health First Aid England, outgoing trustee for London LGBT Community Centre. I exist in a lot of different spaces. And so that part of my role was being best in class in the industry, how we could bring in really diverse talent, but how we could tell stories about diverse communities and communities that we'd never actually been able to reach before. I was very clear that it's not DE&I. We're looking at representation and inclusion. We're looking at how we tell stories, but I guess how I view social impact is how we do that internally from agencies, and how do you build connected spiderweb where everybody is in community. And so therefore that reflects in the work. You've got creative teams that are working together with strategists and account managers, being able to lean on each other, but also ask each other the right questions to then create truly inclusive work. It means that you have no need for external consultants and having to pay to bring in diversity, because you've got people who are empowered enough to explore and tell those stories, or know how to build them, or know how to connect with those people and pull it in rather than be called out for it. It's the element of, it's cultural strategy, it's ESG, it's looking at policy, it's understanding community and how you talk to people. And it's weaving that all together through an advertising and marketing lens.
And so tell me more about how this transitioned into kind of your main project. Now it takes a village. Tell our...
Just the same thing that I did at Lucky General. So I'm just doing it through the lens of Black women. And I guess across advertising, media marketing and comms, it takes a village collective, or ITAV, which is the short name because we're in an industry that loves short name. We have one mission, which is by 2028, 1 in 5 professionals in this industry will be Black women. And so we look at that through 2 pillars: actual ITAV social impact agent, and working consultation and collaboration with what we call them residents, but with residents on how they, like I just said, act internally and create the ripple effect into the work. And then our second pillar is citizens, so Black women themselves, and creating an eco-structure of Black women, creative directors, strategists, account managers, business development, and using them as part of our education and training, but also opening out opportunities, working together with recruiters and recruitment businesses who can help those businesses recruit, retain, and elevate Black women in their businesses. Do that globally.
What's your most popular country?
I don't actually have one. And I say popular, so not in a popular, but say in a positive way. I obviously have so much focus for the UK, but I'm African, my parents' heritage, Nigerian, but it's also American. So I exist in all of those spaces. So we're doing some great work with some people in Nigeria. So Omawumi, who's at Glacier, and we're about to start doing some work with Yar, who's in Ghana and runs Storytellers. But then we've got great people in the US. I'm now part of the Ad Colour family. We're potentially about to do something with some people in Amsterdam. But I think there's just loads of opportunity. I don't think there's one country that's better. And then I just think there's so much untapped potential for UK. The work that most lauded and applauded by Lion, by Adweek, by Effie's, by Marketing Society, that's all made in the UK. So me, and then our chief woman is Laurelie White. I have a great kind of crew. That's her title. She picked it. I just celebrate it. We have a social media and brand partner, is Crystal Nyako, who runs CN Media. And then I just have a great group of advisors and champions. So Emma Harris, Danny Sapadi, Simon Cook, and Harsh Kapadia. I think it's a tale older than time, which is understanding the strategic potential of having a Black woman in your business. How she thinks, how she utilizes skills, how she can troubleshoot, think on her feet, understand policy and systemic issues, because they're probably ones that she's lived. It's more than one thing. And so when you are thinking about recruiting Black women, you have to understand the nuance. And I think we live in a world where, as much as everyone says they understand the nuance, they don't. So,
have there been any setbacks that you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
our initial jump off was kind of shrouded in a lot of negativity. So I registered the business March 2023. We were supposed to launch June of 2023. That didn't happen for a number of reasons until March of 2024. And it's been almost a wonderful year. But I think we got caught up in the DEI backlash. I'll be honest. And people are inherently lazy. And by that, the assumption would be because a Black woman had created something about social impact without really understanding DEI. And I'm like, no, we don't live in like HR or DEI where strategy. So I think that has been the biggest backlash, like having to, a lot more communication, a lot more re-education. And I think just the barrier of oftentimes how society views Black women. We talk about it. If a man was doing something and another man held the purse strings, he'd just probably even ask questions. He'd just be like, how much money do you? And away you go. Of how women are viewed as business leaders, but especially Black women, it's the over explanation and the why. And then, okay, you're asking for 25, I can only give you 5. And so I think that's not for me to criticize. I think it's just all been a massive learning curve of running my own business and how to move and how to navigate. And yeah, if it's not a lesson, it's a blessing. And if it's not a blessing, it's a lesson. And that's just how I look at it.
Okay. Amazing. And so, suppose, what is or one thing that really moves the needle for you running your own business, just as a bit of actionable advice for anyone listening at the moment?
Mm-hmm. I have my own agency, no matter how hard. And we could lie and say that being a founder isn't hard work. It's knowing that everything that I'm building is within my own sphere of control. I set the tone on what respecting value truly looks like through my lens. I'm just seeing the small things to the huge things, to the things that I didn't think were going to happen come into reality. It's been 3 years in the making. Our launch was going to be a dinner to celebrate Black women in Adland, which we will do this year at Cannes Lions. I can't say where just yet, but it'll be a dinner for 250 Black women alongside our champions, front and centre, because that's where we deserve to be celebrated, and that's where we've always been but never showcased. And it's really important for me to honour that, because it isn't just myself, but it's all the Black women that I've been connected to. It's women like my mum who've never had the opportunity to take or receive their flowers because they didn't feel like they deserved it. And so to be able to have that moment, like many of the other moments that I've had so far, but in community, and to celebrate, so many Black women that have no idea what's coming, it'll be one of those moments that like just last a lifetime. I look forward to 28 when all the things that we said we were going to achieve are achieved, when all the naysayers and the lurkers and the people who don't believe that it's a possibility are proved wrong. And that's not ego or pride. It's just, it is what it is. And we know exactly, otherwise I'm a firm believer that God wouldn't have put this in my heart if it wasn't possible. So if you don't believe that we're going to do it, just watch me. Yeah.
Hope you're enjoying the show. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. Drop a comment and share your thoughts. Even better, if you're loving the show, take 2 seconds to rate us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast. It really helps other people find us. And if you want to be a guest, details in the show notes on how to sign up. Now, let's jump back in. Thank you so much for sharing your business journey with us. Now we're going to switch into chatting about just things that make your life a bit easier. I always like to start off this section with music. So music is in your biography. I always like to ask, do you have a walk-up song or like a song that just gets you hyped? I am currently building a playlist with all of these.
I got to Common, Don't Forget Who You Are, and Rooted by Sierra and Esther.
Are there any personal policies that keep you like grounded, especially as someone who is doing so many things?
I just have two, which is, like I said, to be respected and valued. They're my personal policies. They're my personal boundaries. If I'm respected, then I'm valued. If I'm valued, then I'm respected. I haven't always been good at enforcing those. And boundaries is a word that I regularly practice. My therapist will be very happy with me. But yeah, I think they're the two for me because they can be adapted wherever you go. But as long as I'm respected and valued, that's what matters most. And that I respect and value others, it works just the same.
I feel like you have a lot of cyclical kind of values in like earlier when you were talking about like lessons and blessings, like respect and values. I think that's great. Amazing. And so is there anything specifically in your daily routine that you have to do, especially as you're a mum?
No. Every day is a new day in our household, but I require routine. I now understand, especially my eldest son is autistic, high performing, nonverbal. My youngest son has ADHD and lives somewhere on the autism spectrum, and I'm high functioning ADHD. So I realized the more that I have a routine, the better day that I have, and sticking to that. When I come out of my routine, I really struggle.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely grounding. And then does that apply to like style as well? Do you have a personal style uniform that you keep going?
Oh no, it depends. If I'm at home, then it's pajamas and house dress and like it might be nice up top and wild and not coordinated from below. When I'm outside, I am my parents' child. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I didn't love to turn a look, and I understand dressing well and dressing for your fit. And, my parents have really instilled some of those skills. Plus, because I got to grow up in fashion, my wardrobe is disgusting. But I will always have a bright shoe. My shoe game, I think, is particularly strong. And I'm normally in brights. Like, I like to wear colour. I don't like to look just like everybody else.
Do you have any go-to brands for like bright, colourful clothes?
Okay, The Chemist, an amazing woman called Sade. So it's a black-owned. I've been shopping there for years, and her clothes make me feel absolutely amazing. Now that I have children, I can't afford 5'9" Christian Louboutin shoes. So my go-to are New Look. Yeah, and then the rest is just, I like what I like, and I'm a bit of a mishmash of high street and designer.
Love that. When it comes to beauty, so is there anything that you absolutely love and go back to and recommend for skin care? So like face, body care, moisturizers, and then hair? I was
have hair.
I guess moisturizing is that.
So I use Lush, and they have a balm which I use and the kids use for all of our afros, which is really great because I got very sensitive scalp. For like skin, I'm a massive fan of Elf, and their stuff makes my skin feel really, really great. My go-to concealer is LA Girl Pro Conceal, and then NYX Blur for my foundation because I got combination skin. Cannot do without Pat McGrath mascara. And then palette of choice. Sorry, you're getting everything today. My palette of choice is Beauty Base Bright, and it's all the power of a good brush.
Yeah, I'm always so impressed. Body care.
Moisturizers, Rituals.
I had that one yet, but okay, it's one to look into.
Rituals, White Jasmine, and Peach.
On more of the businessy side of things, would you say you're like quite a techie person? Do you use a lot of apps to run your business and so forth?
Yes, but I am old school. I love a pen and a Muji notebook.
Well, actually, this is quite interesting because you are sort of in the marketing world. Are there any specific platforms that you really recommend to people when it comes to like trends or reporting, anything like that?
I kind of use all of them. I think you should expand your mindset. You shouldn't just rely on one place. I guess as a baby CD, like doing it for myself and not having a proper outsourced designer. We work with lots of different people. Canva is a base to use to design and create decks and pull things together. I use a cross between different kind of AI, but Effie Kanua created Lila Assistant, which is a Black woman run AI like ChatGPT platform. And it has loads of virtual assistants. And I find that is really amazing. You can change and create your tone, do anything from write a business plan to social titles, helps you find loads of things. Yeah, I never limit myself to one thing. I always try to expand what's available and then adapt it to my own.
Amazing. I haven't actually heard of Lila. I'm actually going to look it up now because I'm very intrigued. Thank you for sharing. And are there any resources when it comes to business that you swear by, be it like books or podcast newsletters?
LinkedIn. And that's not biased, but LinkedIn for me has been like the best resource of open space, listening to like other leaders, learning about other people, things out, my tone of voice, how I want to work, being able to reach people that in the normal business working world I might never have access to, by being able to follow people that I admire or peers, or actually like connecting to different business leaders. It's given me an opportunity to expand not only my own knowledge, but create really amazing business opportunities that I might never have had before. So for me, that is like the best resource because it's a professional platform too. So it's teaching like the world of business alongside adapting myself and finding a comfortable place for the two. I would love to say that I am reaching a level that I would like to. Time is not my friend right now. I think before I could. And now I'm like, I keep saying to Crystal, I'm like, I should have posted 6 things this week and I've actually managed to get out 2. But I guess I've now got over 10,000 followers and I'm a LinkedIn top voice for LGBTQ in the UK. And this year I was recognised as one of the top 50 inspirational Black women in marketing. And that's all come from being on the platform. So I think, yeah, like LinkedIn's a place where for me, I feel like you can really change your stars. And that's how I use it anyway.
Question on awards, actually, because as someone who's a bit more like early in my career, and I'm sure for a lot of people in the place as well, like you are very well decorated. Like, how do you get nominated these awards? Like, how does that work? How do they find you? Do you find them? Like,
it's a bit of both, if I'm really honest. I really took my own personal development seriously and was part of Madeline McQueen's The Compass Club. And one of the thread pages that we had was winning. And it was like, okay, how are we celebrating and championing each other? What are we nominating each other for? What do you want to put yourself forwards for? And so I had this amazing group like, oh, I put you forward for this. No, you didn't ask for it, but I thought I saw it and I thought it would have been great, or vice versa. Specific things to like add color leaders. I nominated myself because I really want to be in company with people who were like me. I really wanted to elevate and push myself up. And so to be shortlisted and to be part of the cohort was incredible. Future is female. I have no idea who nominated me. It was just such a wonderful surprise because I'd really wanted that one. And then other things, so 40 for 40, I nominated myself, but together with my agency. And so obviously got listed on that campaign, asked me later on to be chair. So for me, everything is about a relationship. It's about building great relationships, being in community with these spaces. I think that's just the reality. I don't manage my own disappointment well, which is why I hate the idea of awards. And you have to play it. Sometimes a recognition really goes some way to how people see you, how they elevate you, and the opportunity that they give you. For me, it's like I honor all the ones that I've got. Some mean more than others. And then it's also like the ones that I do have, they all make sense for who I am and what I represent and the why, rather than I've got awards for awards' sake. And I think that's probably a great piece of advice. Like the thing that I said at the beginning is it's the why. Know that the award is just a recognition and a nod for what you're already doing. It's not the defining moment of the why. And so if you have always been about it and you're always doing it, to receive the recognition is nice, but it doesn't stop you from carrying on.
Snaps. A lot of truth bombs in this episode. Amazing. Thank you for shining some light on the awards space.
Oh, hey again. Did you know there are roughly 100,000 London business babes out there? And we're on a mission to reach as many as possible. Enjoying what you hear? To support the hours of work that goes into making this special, you can either A, consider supporting directly as a paid monthly Substack subscriber to also unlock future exclusive content for less than a coffee and a croissant. B, any brands listening, we'd love to explore ways for you to be part of the journey. C, at the very least, on your next co-working date, tell a fellow London business babe about us. Details in the show notes. Now let's jump back in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with us your work and life tours. We're gonna move more onto the space of London at the moment. So I know you're based outside of London at the moment, but I'm assuming you're coming into the city quite regularly. Potentially.
I live outside of London. I grew up in Walthamstow. I was there yesterday. I'm in London about every other day of the week at the moment. So yeah, London's, I was born in Highbury.
So
London holds my heart. I've lived in North London, East London, West London, short stint in South London, and now I live outside of it.
It's a lot cheaper. I don't blame you. It's amazing. So is there anything on your London bucket list at the moment?
Do you know, my London bucket list, really strange. I miss it. Talbridge, they have the floral display. Yeah, just by Tower Hill Station, I think. And it's Talbridge, and it's because I like the flowers. Wimbledon is always on my London bucket list.
And with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have gone to a few. I wouldn't mind doing London Fashion Week again. That's always a fun one. I've worked it. I'd like to be there.
Okay,
I'd like to be
fair
there.
enough. I was reading someone's post the other day, I think you a bit like awards, you can self-nominate yourself to brands. I think they post the brands a few weeks before, and then you can just email them. Hey.
Yeah. Like being on it's like open. You can just apply for tickets for shows.
Okay. And when it comes to London food, do you have any shout from the rooftop food places that you recommend?
Chickers, Seven
Yes,
Sisters Road.
I have heard amazing things actually. Yeah, I need that. Is definitely on my list.
And then Prince of Peckham.
Another wonderful place. That's actually around the corner from me. I live in Lewisham. Been there a few times.
I was there last weekend. My friend's birthday for different paint.
Okay, and then are you a cafe person at all? Are there any that you would recommend if you are a cafe person?
What's it called? It's round the corner from Great Portland Street Station. It's called Peyton and Burn. Great cake.
What makes them stand out?
Great food, really nice venue, really good coffee.
Amazing. When it comes to clubs or networks, are there any that you're part of or have been part of that you would recommend for anyone trying to make meaningful relationships?
So I'm one of the co-founders for Join Our Table here in the UK, which is a community group for Black British women in advertising, communications, marketing and media. And it's a really lovely space. We've got, I think, almost 200 members now across all of the disciplines. We've had movie night, get-togethers, brought people together in Cannes. I think that's a really great space. I'm a member of WACL, which is Women in Advertising Communications Leadership. So it's the most senior women in advertising communications industry. And that is recommendations by members. We've literally just finished are like member applications. But that's a really great space. But I've been supported as a senior woman in the industry that is an aspirational space, I would say. And I like to like lots of different LGBTQ plus networks, and obviously UK Black Pride and London Queer Fashion Show. The London LGBT Centre is on Bankside between Blackfriars and the Tate Modern, and we're open Wednesday to Sunday. So that's a really wonderful place for people to find community.
Amazing. Cool. Lots of different things for everyone to check out there. Thank you for sharing.
Don't worry if it's a lot to take in. All of the amazing tools, spots and recommendations mentioned by our guests can be found in the Coffee and Oysters guide. Details in the show notes.
And so now we're going to wrap up with a few questions. What is a recent win that you want to celebrate? And what is the recent win of someone else that you would like to celebrate?
Recent win of somebody else I'd like to celebrate, my friend Colette Phillip, who was highly commended for Entrepreneur of the Year at the Campaign Inspiring Women Award. And that was really wonderful to see her. And then a recent win for me was last week. I was one of the 11 speakers picked for People Like Us. And they did an event at the Financial Times. You're only given 3 minutes to speak, which is very hard. But I got to talk about my parents and celebrate them and their work and their careers for the very first time, and kind of pay them their flowers whilst they're still here. So yeah, beautiful recording comes out in a couple of weeks.
Check that out when that lands. So cool. And lastly, is there anything that you want to plug? And is there anything that you need help with? I always like to say that you never know who's listening. So dream big.
Oh my God, of course. Blatant plug, our website. Finally, www.itavcollective.com. So you can register your interest in our first part is open, and the rest will be open later on this week. We're obviously on LinkedIn and Instagram. My socials are at Simply Miss Chloe. And then, yeah, I'm always looking for brands and businesses that want to support and get behind our work. And everyone, if it's not for you, just share it with another Black woman that you know.
Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us today. I'm going to pop all of your links inside your profile page, inside the Coffee and Oysters guide. That will be available in the show notes if you're listening. So you can go and dive into all of those members clubs and brands and all of the goodness. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my God, thank you. This has been such a nice conversation.
Thanks for listening. Get in touch at coffeeandoysters@gmail.com. Stay connected at Coffee and Oysters Pod on TikTok and Instagram. And never miss out by subscribing to Substack. Details in the show notes. And most importantly, keep those 5-star ratings coming, and see you next time.